Here we are with Maurício Magaldi, Head of Product at Shielded Technologies. Welcome to the Xapo Media Lounge.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
For those of people who don't know, could you tell us a little bit about Shielded and what they do?
Yeah. So Shielded is the core contributor to the Midnight protocol, the Midnight blockchain. Midnight is a privacy-preserving programmable blockchain coming out of the Cardano ecosystem. It's the first partner chain to launch from Cardano. And we are the major contributor for code and for testing and all the engineering side of it. And we work in close collaboration with the Midnight Foundation, which is the core entity around the Midnight ecosystem.
Amazing. So as head of product, I'd really love to find out a bit more about how you balance kind of like user UX and the privacy of the blockchain.
Right. So the interesting thing about Midnight is that we chose two different archetypes to satisfy users and developers. So on the developer front, the language of Midnight, Minokawa Compact, is aimed at people who have a knowledge of TypeScript, which is probably the most common developing language. It has its quirks because it uses zero knowledge proof, but the face-first environment is very similar to a TypeScript language, which is very popular. On the other end, on the security side, we use an architecture inspired by the paper called Kachina, which is privacy preserving in the sense that it isolates your data from the blockchain. So you don't record the user data on the blockchain, you record the zero knowledge proofs, which preserve privacy. So that's kind of the balance between user experience and user development experience type thing that we aim to bring to the public, both the users and the developers.
So on that privacy point, is that kind of what drew you into roles in blockchain and Web3, or was it a general interest anyway?
So I'm a data guy.
Okay.
I was in banking much earlier and before I even found out about what crypto or Bitcoin was at the time. And I was also a chief data officer in the era of implementing regulations like GDPR. So privacy became very central to what I believe companies need to honor for users. And as we enter this decentralized paradigm, we were not really mindful about privacy. For a very long time, we equated anonymity with privacy, which is not exactly the same. And now with economies onboarding blockchains, it is paramount that we fix that on this new infrastructure. And also, we've been through Web 2, if you want to call it that, where all of our data has been scraped off of the internet. We were told that giving away our data would give us great service. That is not exactly true. So I think the focus on privacy that I have and that Midnight also offers is something that will allow us to gradually climb that mountain of privacy back and reclaim our rights to our own data and real, self-sovereignty.
I'd love to unpack that point you said before, why anonymity does not equate to privacy. Could you explain that to us?
So being anonymous means that you're not correlating your name or your identity to a particular address. So let's say the case of Bitcoin. But over time, as you build public data around that address, that means that behaviors become clearer. And if any data or metadata from that behavior becomes identifiable, everything else becomes identifiable, right? Okay. So the data is there, even if it's encrypted, at some point it will be decrypted. That's the nature of cryptography. But when you have something that abstracts away the data in form of a cryptographic proof, then there is no correlation. Even if you collate and collect all of that proof over time, it's rather mathematically impossible to actually correlate that. So that's where the distinction between anonymity and privacy comes. And obviously, with the advancement of zero knowledge proof cryptography, we have more and more chances of actually handling privacy in a much better way, even if the proof is written on the blockchain immutably and forever.
Right. Okay. And for a lot of people that may not be super tech savvy, a lot of this may seem a bit hard to grasp. And
it is. It's super hard.
But for people who are not into Web3, what can they look forward to, like in the future, of how this tech will be applied in their life? Like, how will it make their life better?
What I'm most excited about is decentralized social networks, right? We live in a world where every online interaction is under a centralized platform that offers you this incredible ability to connect with other people around the world. That exposes your identity and your behavior to decentralized actors who then monetize the data from you. So because the service is free, the product is you. So I'm looking forward to the decentralized private-based social media where we own our data, we take the data everywhere, but we only disclose the data to the parties that we know and we want to. And if someone is going to monetize that data, it's going to be on our own terms. Right. So that will be my wildest dream about reclaiming privacy is in the context of online social interactions, which to me is something that we completely gave away without actually knowing what that was. And all of a sudden we're now being just educated by algorithms that use our entire body of data to play against us.
On that point you made about clawing our data back, I think for a lot of people, they're quite used to this current paradigm that we're in, where the algorithm gives it to us, and we're happy to let these centralized entities take our data. So is there an education piece there? And B, why should people care?
I think we got conditioned, as you say, because it was super convenient, right? Sharing a bunch of stuff, getting to connect to people. I think the bigger problem is how much of this can be used for and also against you. We don't know how much data all of these centralized platforms have about ourselves. They're absolutely monetizing it, and all of a sudden you don't see a dime from it, and you're getting very weird ads of things you never told anybody, but you search the internet for, right? So that's very peculiar in the time we're living. When we say clawback, and I'm not trying to imply that we're going to recover that data that went out. This is impossible. You can't unknow something that you already know, and these platforms already know about us. It's the future data that can be protected, and little by little made sure that we actually own them, and we decide who gets to see it. So the paradigm changes in terms of privacy when we regain control of who gets to see it, and how that gets monetized, and how I get to define. We call it selective disclosure, how much of my data I decide myself to share with the world. And there is an education piece that is, this is out there. These platforms will continue to exist. How much we use from them and how much we decide to share is not up to us, it's up to them. So there is a conscience piece more than anything else, and how much we want to be surveilled by either public or private agents in what we do online. So the privacy is not just a security-based word, it's also how we want to be controlled or monitored by everybody who's monetizing from us. And this is probably something that we don't think a lot. I don't think there is a general education about how to protect ourselves online. And hopefully, more of the Web3 ethos of self-sovereignty and, digital ownership also transpire a little bit with, how privacy can actually help you, just because we're all private citizens, right? They're private businesses. Everybody has a private and a public side. We just got super used to just make everything public. And funny example, I'm old. I grew up in an era where there were not smartphones. We didn't have access to it. These days, you're at university or in college days, like everything gets documented. Right? So it is a different paradigm. And everything now in the era of AI, everything that gets documented gets also consumed and used to train these artificial intelligence large language models. So do we want that data to be used? Let's do that with the conscience, and let's do that getting the rewards for the data that we produce.
And my last question, I'd love for you to settle a debate. Are our phones listening to us?
It is a tough. I did experiments on this a few times. They were inconclusive because the preliminary data they have about us is pretty wild, right? They have geolocation. They have the ability to, depending on the time of the day, to record a few bits and bobs. The fact that you have opened that device and you bring that device with you everywhere allows for them to do that. It doesn't mean that they do that. But the fact alone that we allow them to do that should be enough cause for concern. Yes. I don't think that there is a debate. I think there's legality and ethics. And most of the large platforms will play in between the two to their own benefit.
Yeah.
So I guess it's upon us to actually, again, reclaim what we think is reasonable. And we live in a capitalistic society. Vote to our dime, right? Choose what you need based on what you consume.
So in short, it is possible. Whether it's happening, we don't know. Maurizio, thank you very, very much. Appreciate
Thank you.
it. Cheers.